Welcome back to MidPoint, and also welcome back the popular author of the Washington Post's The Right Turn blog, Jennifer Rubin, still with us. Jennifer, you mentioned this about the president and leadership a couple of minutes ago. The president postponed his trip on Wednesday to New Jersey and Connecticut to convene a White House meeting about Ebola. Is it just me and some other people? But when you ask the left and the right, they will tell you that in this case, as well as so many others, this seems to be leadership by panic in almost everything that's happening, because this is a meeting perhaps that should have been held already, last week even, because when you smell this coming, you got to jump right on it.
Yeah, exactly. And even before that, where were we internationally as this epidemic was breaking out? Are these people still of the mind that what happens overseas stays overseas? I thought we were supposed to learn that lesson during 9/11. So you're right, we didn't prepare in this very specific way a week or so ago, but we have been preparing for weeks and months, as medical professionals and international aid organizations have been explaining. The president does not get out ahead of issues. He does not have competent help around him, and he doesn't apparently know how to direct them. You see this in the conduct of the war. You see this in the Veterans Administration. You see it in the Ebola scare. Endemically, this administration really does not keep the trains running on time. And you have to say that some of that, at least, comes from the top. And if you have a tolerance for misdeeds, or everything is hyper-politicized, so the issue is what the media will say rather than are you doing the right thing, this kind of stuff is going to keep happening.
Now, let's look at some numbers here. Washington Post ABC News poll shows that the president's approval ratings now at its lowest ever. The question, do you approve or disapprove of the way the president is handling his job? 51% disapprove, 40% disapprove. Now, we know again that the buck stops here. Harry Truman made that very famous over the years. That was on the desk. Everything has to come to him. But you just mentioned some of the people around him. Do we need to finally just say it out loud that at least it would seem that the president is surrounded by some of the biggest clowns and fools that ever populated a White House, because they can't seem to get anything right?
Absolutely. And guess who put them there? The president. And there's a lot of speculation, particularly in the foreign policy community, that he put fools and really third-rate people
basically
there.
Sycophants there.
Yes, exactly. So he wouldn't be bothered with any negative information. He didn't even have to listen to the smart people before he ignored them. He was just going to cut that out entirely. And so you have people like Bella Jarrett, who's a political hack, Michelle Obama, who's his wife, is not going to tell him anything is wrong, and a very few other people around him. And that's all he uses for a sounding board and to get his information. From reports from various books and various news reports, he never makes a decision in an open meeting. He always goes then behind closed doors to talk it out with this very, very small group of people. None of them have particularly good records or any record of executive experience. So you just repeat the same mistakes time and time and time again. And this president, you remember when the Obamacare rollout was happening, and he said, I had no idea buying insurance was that difficult. I had no idea contracting for computer software was so complicated. This is a man who doesn't know anything about anything. And yet he is in charge, in essence, of the biggest enterprise on the planet, which is the United States federal government.
Let me get your opinion on something else. I got about 90 seconds left. Already the left is using Ebola as attack ads against the right, with the midterms coming up, saying that it's the right's fault. They cut money. It's their fault that the CDC isn't ready. With the midterms coming, though, do you think it's smart at this point that, as far as the Republicans are concerned, stay away from this? Don't get involved in this using the death of a human being for a reason to get elected.
I think they should push back on the facts, and today the Washington Post gave 4 Pinocchios for exactly that claim that you just outlined. I also think Republicans have to be the grown-ups here. They have to be the ones who are calm and cool. They have to be the ones who say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z once we get in there. We're going to have oversight hearings. We're going to keep the public apprised of things on a day-by-day basis. They have to rise to the occasion. If they do that, and if they push back on really these desperate attacks by the Democrats, I think they'll do fine.
Do you think perhaps, and I hate to ask this, but do you think they're smart enough to understand that? And the only reason I say that is so many politicians make so many mistakes, and they put their foot in their mouth, and they can't afford to make the mistake. Do you think they're all going to be smart enough to get what you just said?
Republicans avoid a pitfall? My word, I don't think that's possible. I think there will be people who blow it. I am hopeful that the majority of them don't. This election cycle, it seems to be that most of the really stupid moves and the pathetic candidates are on the Democrat side, but 3 weeks to go, a lot can go wrong in that period of time.
We have 20 days to go. Anything could happen at this point. We just got to buckle up and take it as it comes. Jennifer Rubin from the Washington Post, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, later on this hour, the Chinese are indeed winning a certain war against America, one that needs no physical weapons and we are seemingly helpless to defend against. And after the break, what is it that is costing Americans $124 billion a year and likely more in the future? And you're probably never going to change it, and you'll pay for it. It's coming up right here on MidPoint.